Let me ask you something brutally honest. Are you tired of people walking all over you? Tired of being overlooked, talked down to, dismissed, interrupted, ignored? Well, here's the truth that no one likes to say out loud. No one will respect you until you respect yourself first. I know that stings, but hear me out, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you the exact shift that will make people sit up, shut up, and take you seriously. This isn't theory. This is how you stop being invisible in your own life. This is how you get people to respect your space, your voice, your boundaries, without ever raising your voice or pretending to be someone you're not. If you've ever been taken for granted, disrespected at work, ghosted by friends, walked out on, lied to, this is your wake-up call. You stay to the end of this speech. You won't just command respect. You'll become someone that no one dares to disrespect again. Let's go. Respect is not something you get because you ask for it. It's not given just because you're a good person, because you mean well, or because you show up and try. Respect is earned. It's built brick by brick through your behavior, your boundaries, and how you show up for yourself when no one's watching. The problem is, too many people are out here hoping that the world will notice them, see their heart, see their effort, and automatically give them the respect they crave. But that's not how life works. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you demand. And I don't mean demanding by yelling or throwing your weight around. I mean you earn it through your presence, your energy, your standards, your consistency. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone walk into a room and before they even speak, people stop and pay attention? That's not luck. That's not charisma. That's the energy of someone who has done the internal work. That's someone who has earned their own respect first, and that energy, that confidence, that self-trust, it radiates, it speaks before they do, and people feel it. The truth is, the world reflects back to you what you believe about yourself. If you walk around believing that your voice doesn't matter, that your time isn't worth much, that your needs come second, guess what? People will believe that too. They'll treat you like background noise. They'll walk all over you, not because they are evil, but because that's what you're silently signaling. But the moment you draw a line, the moment you shift how you treat yourself, everything changes. When you show up with boundaries, with clarity, with calm but unshakable confidence, people take notice. Respect starts showing up not because you asked for it, but because your presence demands it. And no, this isn't about being perfect. It's not about having it all together. It's not about being the loudest or the most impressive person in the room. In fact, it has nothing to do with other people. Respect starts privately. It starts with how you talk to yourself when you fail. Do you shame yourself or do you learn and move forward? It starts with whether you keep your own promises. Do you hit snooze on your goals? Do you say you'll change but never follow through? Or do you do the hard thing, even when no one's watching, because that's the kind of person you want to be? Every time you show up for yourself, every time you take action aligned with your values, every time you say no to something that disrespects your time or energy, you're earning your own respect, and the more you respect yourself, the less tolerance you'll have for people who don't. That's how it works. You stop begging for crumbs of approval. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't get it, because deep down you know who you are, and that kind of self-respect is magnetic. It draws in the right people, and it repels the ones who were never meant for you anyway. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If people keep disrespecting you, if you keep feeling walked over, minimized, unappreciated, it's not just about them. It's about what you've been tolerating. You cannot earn respect by shrinking. You will never get it by people pleasing. You will never get it by staying silent when you should have spoken up. You earn respect by being real, by being direct, by honoring your time, your values, your energy every single day. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, that moment when you say enough, when you stop over-explaining, when you stop justifying your standards, when you stop trying to be liked and start being respected. That moment is when you begin to lead your own life. And people follow leaders. They listen to them. They trust them. Why? Because real leadership isn't about control. It's about clarity. It's about showing the world that you are the authority on your own worth. That's what earns respect, not titles, not followers, not achievements, self-respect. And once you truly understand that you don't need anyone else's permission to be powerful, you stop waiting. You stop apologizing. You stop asking for respect and start becoming someone who naturally commands it. People treat you the way you let them. That might be hard to hear, but it's one of the most important truths you'll ever need if you're tired of being disrespected, overlooked, or undervalued. You don't need to raise your voice to be respected. You don't need to change your personality. What you need is a standard, a line in the sand that says, "This is how I allow people to treat me, and this is what I no longer tolerate." Because if you don't define that line, people will draw it for you. And guess what? They'll draw it wherever it's most convenient for them, not for you. The world doesn't run on fairness. It runs on clarity. When someone keeps interrupting you and you smile and stay quiet, what are you teaching them? That your voice doesn't matter. When someone constantly shows up late, cancels on you last minute, or dumps their emotional baggage on you every time you talk, and you say nothing, you're training them that your time and energy are open season. We like to think respect is about what other people decide, but in reality, it's about what you allow. If you've been disrespected repeatedly in your life, there's a pattern, and somewhere in that pattern you gave permission. Not intentionally, not because you wanted to, but because you didn't stop it. And let's be clear, boundaries aren't rude, they're necessary. Setting a boundary doesn't make you cold or selfish. It makes you self-aware. It makes you someone who understands that your energy is currency, that your time is valuable, that your voice matters, and people who are used to taking advantage, yeah, they'll call it rude. They'll act confused when you stop overgiving. But the ones who truly respect you, they'll adjust. They'll step up. Because deep down, even they know the truth. They were only getting away with it because you let them. You don't need to confront every disrespect with anger. You just need to respond with consistency. When someone crosses the line, you don't have to argue. You just stop giving them access. When someone repeatedly ignores your boundaries, you stop negotiating. You don't explain your worth, you enforce it. That shift when you go from explaining yourself to owning yourself. That's when people start treating you differently, not because they suddenly became better people, but because your standards became non-negotiable. And sometimes the hardest people to draw the line with are the ones closest to you, family, friends, longtime co-workers. You're scared they'll pull away. You're worried they won't understand, but let me tell you something. If someone's only in your life because you bend for them, because you never say no, because you make yourself smaller so they feel comfortable, then they're not in your life for the right reasons. That's not love, that's control, and it stops the moment you say, "This version of me no longer exists." Respect isn't just earned, it's enforced, not through aggression, but through clarity, through calm conviction, through a quiet refusal to keep living beneath your worth. And every time you draw that boundary, every time you reinforce that standard, every time you walk away from someone who refuses to meet it, you are teaching the world how to treat you. Not through words, but through your actions, through your standards, through the energy you embody when you decide you're no longer available for disrespect from anyone, including yourself. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's not this magical trait that some people just happen to have and others don't. That's a lie you've been sold to keep you small. Confidence is a skill. It's something you build brick by brick, rep by rep. one uncomfortable action at a time. The reason most people never feel confident is because they're waiting for it, waiting to feel ready, waiting until they look better, waiting until they're sure they won't fail. But that's not how it works. Confidence doesn't come before the action. It comes after. It comes from doing the thing you're afraid of, from showing up when your hands are shaking, when your voice trembles, when your stomach is in knots, and doing it anyway. You build confidence the same way you build strength, by lifting what feels heavy, by pushing against the resistance. You don't become confident by reading about it or thinking about it. You become confident by doing. Every time you speak up in that meeting when you normally stay silent, every time you hold a boundary, every time you take that first step even though your fear is screaming louder than your courage, you're wiring confidence into your identity. It's not about perfection, it's about proof. Every small act becomes a receipt that proves I can trust myself. And when you start stacking those receipts, you stop questioning your worth and start believing in it. The people you admire, the ones who walk into a room like they own it, the ones who speak with clarity and power, the ones who seem unshakable, they weren't born like that. They practiced. They made fools of themselves. They failed. They started before they felt ready. What you're seeing is the result of thousands of small moments where they chose courage over comfort, and that choice, that's available to you right now. Because confidence isn't something that lands on you. It's something you earn by repeatedly stepping into the discomfort. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to stop letting fear be the driver. It can come along for the ride, but it doesn't get to hold the wheel anymore. The moment you stop waiting to feel confident and you start acting with courage, you flip the switch. You stop being a spectator in your own life. You stop outsourcing your power to other people's opinions. You stop shrinking, and you start building a version of yourself that doesn't just talk about dreams. Someone who chases them, who shows up for them, who refuses to settle for a life that feels safe but small. That version of you, it's already inside, and confidence is the key to unlocking it, not because you're ready, but because you're willing. One of the biggest reasons people stay stuck is because they're waiting for permission to grow, permission to pivot, permission to want something different than what they were taught. But here's the truth. No one is going to fully understand your journey, and they don't need to. Stop wasting energy trying to explain yourself to people who aren't even living the kind of life you want. Not everyone is meant to get it. Not everyone is meant to support you. And that's not a problem. It's a sign you're doing something bold, something personal, something that doesn't fit inside the neat little box someone else built for you. Every time you try to make your dream digestible for someone else, you dilute it, you shrink it, you reshape it into something safer, smaller, more acceptable. But you weren't born to be understood. You were born to be real. You were born to evolve, to take up space, to break patterns, and that kind of growth, it confuses people. It makes them uncomfortable, especially the ones who are too afraid to make changes in their own life. When you start rising, it reflects everything they're not doing, so don't expect them to cheer, don't expect them to clap, expect resistance, expect silence, expect misunderstanding, and then keep going anyway. Because your journey is yours. The late nights, the early mornings, the tears you don't talk about, the wins no one sees. None of it needs validation to matter. And the more you try to explain yourself, the more distracted you become. You start justifying decisions that were never theirs to approve in the first place. You start questioning your path not because it's wrong, but because someone else couldn't see what you saw. Let them be confused, let them talk, let them walk away. That's not your burden to carry. Your only job is to stay aligned with your vision and your truth. The right people will feel it. The right opportunities will find you. The clarity will come, but only when you stop asking for everyone to come with you. Sometimes growth looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like doing things alone. Sometimes it looks like silence when you're surrounded by noise. But none of that means you're lost. It means you're finally choosing yourself. You don't need to be liked. You need to be respected, and respect starts with you respecting your own journey, whether anyone gets it or not. You can say all the right things. You can dress the part, post the right quotes, and speak with confidence. But if your energy doesn't match your words, people feel it. That's the part you can't fake. Energy is raw, it's real. It enters a room before you do and lingers long after you leave. And the crazy thing is, most people don't even realize they're leaking their power through the energy they carry. If you're desperate, it shows. If you're insecure, it hums underneath everything you say. If you're angry, it spills out no matter how hard you try to smile through it. But when you're calm, grounded, focused, that kind of energy shifts everything around you without you needing to speak at all. You don't need to chase attention when your energy commands presence. You don't need to explain your worth when your energy reflects it. And you don't need to argue with people about who you are when your energy speaks for itself. That's why focusing on yourself in silence is so powerful. Because when you're doing the inner work, when you're building discipline, healing your patterns, honoring your boundaries, that growth creates a frequency that can't be ignored. People might not understand what's different about you, but they'll feel it. They'll notice the way you carry yourself, the peace in your eyes, the way you no longer entertain chaos, drama, or meaningless conversations. That's what real power looks like, when you've done enough work that you no longer need to prove a thing. Think about the people who inspire you the most. It's not what they say, it's how they show up. You respect them because they're authentic. They don't try too hard, they're not performing, they just move with intention, they radiate clarity, and that kind of energy only comes when you've been through the fire and come out stronger. It comes from silence, from self-awareness, from choosing growth instead of validation. Energy never lies. That's why it's more important to align your life than it is to advertise it. You don't need to announce every move. You don't need to explain your process. You just need to do the work, quietly, consistently, and let your energy do the talking. Because when your energy is right, you don't have to force things. The right people, the right situations, and the right outcomes are drawn to you, not because of what you say, but because of who you've become. Most people are holding on so tight they don't even realize they're the ones blocking their own blessings. Trying to control how things happen when they happen, who shows up, who leaves, what the timeline looks like, it's exhausting, and it's not working. You know why? Because control is fear in disguise. It's fear of failure, fear of uncertainty, fear that if you stop micromanaging everything, your life will fall apart. But here's the truth most people avoid. The tighter you hold on, the more resistance you create. And the more resistance you create, the harder it becomes to move forward. Sometimes the only thing standing between you and your breakthrough is your obsession with how it should go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means loosening your grip on outcomes so you can actually live. It means trusting yourself enough to know that whatever happens, you'll handle it, that your worth isn't tied to control, that your peace isn't something you bargain with. You cannot create space for new things if you're clinging to what's already gone. You can't attract the right people if you're still chasing the wrong ones. And you can't move forward if your head is stuck in trying to rewrite the past. When you finally decide to let go, even just a little, you create room for something bigger than your plan. You create room for alignment, for flow, for opportunities you couldn't have predicted if you tried. Because life doesn't respond to force. It responds to clarity. When you stop controlling everything, you start seeing clearly. You start trusting your gut. You stop overthinking every move and start taking action. And suddenly, you're not chasing anything, you're becoming someone, you're creating momentum, not because you have it all figured out, but because you're finally letting life work with you instead of against you. It's scary, I know. Letting go feels vulnerable. It feels like surrender. But what you're really doing is making space for your strength to show up. You're saying, I don't know exactly how this will play out, but I'm done pretending I have to control it all. And that shift, that quiet internal release, is what opens the door. That's when people start showing up. That's when solutions appear. That's when you feel lighter, sharper, more in tune, not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped gripping. You started trusting. And that's when everything around you finally starts to fall into place. Look, this journey isn't for the faint of heart. Focusing on yourself in a world that constantly pulls at your attention is hard. Choosing silence when your ego wants to scream is uncomfortable. Letting go of control when your brain craves certainty feels terrifying. But that's exactly why it works. Because the moment you decide to shift inward, to stop chasing people, to stop needing validation, to stop explaining yourself to those who were never meant to understand, you step into a version of yourself that's grounded, unshakable, and powerful beyond words. Everything starts to fall into place, not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you stop getting in your own way. You stop forcing, reacting, pleasing, performing. You become the kind of person who leads without noise, who inspires without trying, who attracts peace, opportunities, and growth just by being aligned. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, if you're sick of the noise, the chaos, the comparison, go quiet. Go inward, build in silence, heal in private, focus on becoming, and then watch what happens. Watch how fast things shift. Watch how the right people start to appear. Watch how your path begins to clear. Because when you finally focus on yourself and stay silent long enough to hear your own truth, everything aligns. Now go. You don't need applause. You need action, and this, right here, is your starting line.